Hello, my name is Robert Corey. I am a New York City-based astrologer that practices and teaches live on the internet. We are starting a new course of study formed on astrology's new program cycle. Summer class 2024 begins on June 23rd, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the program is based on the tradition of the 17th century astrologer Morin de Villefranche, as taught by the late Zoltan Mason of New York. So the program is taught in quarters with 12 lessons per quarter. Each lesson is 90 minutes in length, with a lessons slide sent prior to the beginning of the class and the video of the class posted after the session. Again, the classes will be held on Sunday evening, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Morin's approach uses an orderly, systematic, and structured examination of a chart. We assume no prior knowledge on the attendee, be it a beginner or an advanced student. Everyone starts on the same level. The reason is that Morin uses a very orderly, systematic approach that will be introduced to the student irrespective of their prior experience with astrology. So again, the program begins June 23rd, Sunday, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Now, there are several texts available on Book 21. Here they're shown in order of publication date. But our go-to text, our standard text, will be the most recent publication or translation by Penelope Cedar. So our primary text for the first year of study will be Book 21, irrespective of the particular version you're going to be using. While some of you may prefer to use other versions of Book 21 for one reason or another, which is fine, but to resolve any contradictions will always fall back to the text from Penelope Cedar. Zoltan Mason taught the role of the teacher is to give trustworthy testimony. The student's role is don't be a blind believer. Independently corroborate what the teacher has taught. If it makes sense, you keep the knowledge. If not, you spit it out. That's your responsibility to yourself. A fundamental axiom in life is while the teacher gives trustworthy testimony, the teacher does not teach you. The great teacher is life experience. Now, there are some very common obstacles that can happen for a new student. People don't study the chart in an organized, structured manner. That starts always with looking to the ascendant. If not, this is a cardinal mistake, a major misstep. People don't consciously train themselves to associate a feeling with a symbol, a feeling with a planet. People don't practice learning how to simplify. The above obstacles must be solved. They will delay your progress. Therefore, the need for training. My role is as a primary school teacher of Morin. Since most people are not familiar with this tradition, we have to slowly, steadily bring out the basic ideas and not overwhelm. So my role is a primary school teacher of Morin. There's a beautiful adage that I ran across recently, and it's most beautiful, and it can be applied to whether you're a new student or an advanced student. The adage goes, I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I understand. What a beautiful phrase for the student of astrology studied as a natural science and as an art. Observation as imagination. Just as someone goes to professional school to become a physician or takes an apprenticeship to become a craftsperson, so too a person must be schooled to think as an astrologer. And this is the fundamental goal of the program, always in the background. The program's goal is to teach a person how to think as an astrologer. People have asked, is astrology difficult to learn? The response in 3 words when heard: some people laugh, some smile, still others are puzzled. Look, remember, guess. But the tremendous emphasis on being a careful observer using all your 5 senses. So we have to train ourselves to be a careful observer. Sherlock Holmes said to his friend and companion, Dr. Watson, you see, but you do not observe. We offer to train ourselves to be present and mindful. This means attention. So, astrology as science is based on hard facts. Astrology as art is imagination as it interprets. Astrology as a symbolic tool, it permits objectification of the soul by means of an active use of imagination. Process-wise, it's observation, memory, the ability to recall detail correctly, and conjecture, which means an educated guess. As a practice, it's the measurement of quantity, quality, relationship, and timing. Skill-wise, it's the ability to analyze and synthesize. Analysis breaks down the chart into its components. Synthesis, we reassemble it into a meaningful whole. And interpretation requires the ability to synthesize. So the program's 3 educational goals are: 1, how to get a feeling for the planets and signs based on life experience. 2, illustrate a structured and systematic approach to delineation that promotes synthesis, that is, seeing the chart as a unit. And 3, inculcate solid practical work habits. Provide ways to prioritize, simplify, and economize one's thinking. These goals are based on how to bring out the content of Morin's tradition as taught by Mason. So, the first goal, acquire a feeling. Looking at a sign is a fusion, if you will, of 3 factors. Polarization, it's either masculine or feminine, meaning connected either with consciousness or the unconscious. Quadruplicity, is it cardinal, fixed, or immutable? Means how is the sign oriented? All the cardinal signs are going out from themselves towards the others. All the fixed signs expect the others to come to them, and the mutables go back and forth. And then we have the triplicity: fire, air, water, or earth. That is connected with our temperament. How heated up is the material? So polarization means conscious or instinctive. Quadruplicity, the orientation, stability, and direction. Triplicity, the temperament. So for example, if we look at a glyph of a sign depicts a synthesis of 3 factors. So if we would look at Aries as a symbol, it's masculine, cardinal, and feminine. The goal of synthesis, to try to see all the other signs, 11 signs, as one. So we train ourselves to see 3 as one. The second goal is acquire a structured methodology. Structure encourages an orderly examination of a chart that promotes the development of 3 purposeful habits. Cultivate objectivity, provide an immediately available and orderly checklist, and speed. Why speed? We enter the chart always starting at the ascendant. From there, we push off from the ascendant and proceed in a counterclockwise direction and look for the ruler of the ascendant, and so forth. Then we proceed to steps 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is the MC, the moon, the sun, and anything else that would be unusual. So when we push off from the ascendant, we always go counterclockwise, okay, against the, let's take it, the face of a clock. Every time we enter a chart, we always proceed in the same fashion. With repetition, our thinking speeds up. We start with analysis, but with repetition, the speed makes all the images flash together. And this ultimately is our goal, to see the chart as an integrated unit. The third goal is to help develop good work habits. The problem with the chart is not the lack of information, but rather there is too much information. By this consideration, the mind becomes overwhelmed, so we must train ourselves to prioritize, that orients us, simplify, that's going to encourage clarity, and economize, which will help us speed up our thinking. Just to show you a silly example, on the right is the chart of Martha Stewart with 10 objects: the sun, moon, and the 8 planetary bodies. On the left, sometimes you may have seen depicted at various places not just the 10 planets, but every conceivable object the person has elected to include in the chart. This is completely opposite in the direction we want to go. We want to simplify. When you look at such a chart on the left, the person is going to be overwhelmed, and you're never going to be able to ferret out a clear image of the individual. This is a great mistake. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Acquiring these will protect you from becoming discouraged. So, what is interpretation, and what is it that we interpret? Underlying each horoscope is the archetype, that is, the 12 signs of the zodiac taken as a unit. Each one of us is a particular expression of the archetype at a given point in space and time. Right? Our birth chart represents a snapshot. We are born at a given location at a given time. So interpretation is nothing more than unfolding the particular expression of the archetype. Here we have an example of Martha Stewart. Based on her birth time and place of birth, we see that she has Scorpio rising. But underlying each horoscope is the archetype itself. On what does horoscope interpretation depend? Our ability to judge. And what forms the practical basis upon which our judgment or reasoning depends? Our ability to measure. And what is it that we measure? The planetary forces present. And what are the metrics, the 2 ways we can measure influence? One would be quantity, how much of a particular planet is present. Everybody has a Jupiter, but the question is how powerful, how much does it contribute to the whole chart? And we do that for each planet. And then there is quality. Each planet can express a range of quality, from refined and subtle to primitive and crude. Every chart is composed then of the same parts: signs, planets, and houses. The only thing that changes is the mixture of influences. What varies is the quantity, quality, and proportion. The ability to measure cannot be overstated. Again, each human is given 12 signs, 10 planets, 12 houses. What varies from one person to the next is the mixture of influences. As in any work of art, The result depends on the quantity, quality, and proportion of the parts present. Measure, measure, measure. Morin's approach gives us the tools needed to measure the variety of virtues in humans that give rise ultimately to the endless possibilities of a human being's character, abilities, and destiny. This can never be overstated. Every chart has 12 signs, 10 planets, 12 houses, but the quantity will always vary from one chart to the next. Therefore, our mantra should be always to measure, measure, measure. Now, as mentioned a few moments ago, there are 4 texts here listed in order of publication date. Right? Book 21, which has just been translated by Penelope Cedar, is and will be our standard text, where all contradictions from whatever the other 4 publications have made will be resolved through the text in Cedar's translation. Each version of Book 21 has its virtues and its shortcomings. The latest translation of Book 21 by Cedar is a carefully crafted definitive translation from the Latin. Its shortcoming is that it's not a text for beginners. Irrespective of a person's skill level, it can always be used as a primary source. So, if you elect to choose any of the prior texts indicated, I would always say complement your bookshelf to have as a reference Cedar's primary translation of Book 21. Now, Cornerstones of Astrology includes a lot of material with a very heavily paraphrased version of Book 21. Astrosynthesis, which came out also in 1971, is a better translation, but suffers from the usual problems of being translated from an intermediate language. French is one step removed from the Latin. Its value for the beginner student of astrology or of Morin is that the reading of the text is made easier as all the now outdated arguments against astrology have been excised. Patty Tobin's Planetary Powers is a good text for the absolute beginner. Its value lies in providing example charts to illustrate some important principles. But as already said, the final authority, the go-to book if you want a definitive understanding to what Morin wants to express, is Cedar's translation. The added value of Penelope Cedar's translation is not only the crispness, the clarity of the translation, it's tight, but along with the translation is a copious set of footnotes that are meant to give the reader the benefit of a vantage point, to be able to put into context what Morin wants the reader to understand. So this has been an overview of our new program, A Course of Study, Forum on Astrology, new program cycle beginning in July 23rd, 2024, entitled the Summer Class 2024, being taught on a Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So again, the program is taught in quarters, 12 lessons per quarter, each lesson 90 minutes in length. Each slide set is sent prior to class, and the video for the session is posted after the session. Again, classes will be held on Sunday night, 7 to 8:30 p.m. The tremendous value of Morin is his structured, systematic approach that encourages to go through the chart in an orderly way. And so, because this is unique, we assume no prior knowledge, be it for a beginner or an advanced person, as everyone will be introduced to this approach. Everyone starts on the same level. So this ends our program promotion. Each quarter, composed of 12 lessons, is US $250. Thank you for your attention.